Aloha. Yes, yes. I'm wearing a holiday shirt today. It's a Christmas holiday party with the Orchid Society in Hilo, and so I'm going down to have lunch with them all, and decided I will dress for the occasion. Those of you who have followed the channel for a while, you'll know that on occasion I talk about life here in Hawaii, real estate, property, all that sort of landy, sort of home sort of stuff. This is another one of those. Okay, nothing here about gardening. This one's all about finding a home. I've found that there is a difference in life between living somewhere, having a place to live, and actually having a home, or that is feeling at home. Home is a sensation. As they say, home is where you hang your hat. And for some of us, it can be. Healthy, happy individuals who are fairly well adjusted to life can usually manage to figure out how to, adapt to wherever they find themselves. But it's been my understanding, observation, that every place you live is going to affect you in one way or another. And your being, sort of person you are, actually is probably more comfortable in one sort of an environment than in another. And so there are actually places where we will probably feel much more at home. I moved a lot when I was young. Father's work, I think before I was 4, brought me to 4 different states. And those memories are still there, of all of it. I think my childhood memories liked rural Tennessee more than any other place that I'd been as a youth, although Chesapeake Bay, Maryland was pretty good. Yeah, I like that too. But rural Tennessee really, really, really appealed to me. Although I was born north of Chicago in Evanston, and later ended up back in Chicago on the south side. Chicago in those days, it was an industrial hub. It was a busy, bustling place in the 1950s and 60s. And there were no pollution standards or controls on anything. Okay, yeah, everything belched filth. And the city was essentially filthy, smoky, nasty, smelly. It was a very dirty place. Coal was still burned in quantities, even in trains in some cases. So, in my young mind, thinking back to life in the sun in the meadows in Tennessee with trees picking up pebbles, and looking at animals, it didn't cut it. But that's where I lived. There's no way around it. I was a child. I followed the parent around, and we ended up wherever. And I think everything really shifted for me about 1958. Aunt Ella had her brand new 57 Chevy, and we packed Grandpa, Grandma, Mom, and us 2 kids into that car and headed off down the old 2-lane blacktops around this country. Prior to there having been freeways for the most part, we still used Route 66, and stuff like that. And we circled from Chicago across the northern states through Montana and out to Washington, down through Oregon, across California. They dumped us, Bob and my brother and I, in California with Aunt Nettie, and so the rest of the family could go off and gamble, that was that trip was really, really, really an enlightening experience for me. Kind of shook me up as a youth. I really enjoyed the time I spent near Sacramento with my aunt. It was nice there. Compared to Chicago, and especially back in that period of time, California didn't have such terrible weather problems, fires. They didn't have so much overpopulation and blah, blah. It was a better place to live back then. I liked it a lot. Well, we went on through the south across Arizona. I got to see the Grand Canyon and the Petrified Forest, and I was into rocks, and so Arizona was great, New Mexico is where I first met cactus. I petted the wrong one. It took 2 weeks to get it all out of my hand. Why I still grow cactus, I have no idea. Anyway, so eventually we ended up back in Chicago. And then at later dates, too, in the early 60s, would go to Florida on vacations. And back, 59, 63 in there, I guess. Florida was, I liked it, too. It was nice. It was a little buggy and creepy crawly and chirped and all that. But I really enjoyed Daytona Beach, walking the surf. It was probably about 1961, and I decided that my life would be beachcombing. Yes, I was going to grow up to be a beachcomber. I don't know, I think the only guy I ever met was stranger was, my buddy George's brother Bruce wanted to grow up to be a garbage man. And that's because Brucey he was a real garbage picker. And man, he'd come up with the stuff. Yeah, he saw garbage as gold. So it made sense to him. Well, the beach for me at Daytona, it was walking that thing every morning and something new would wash up. I mean, it could be anything from a Spanish doubloon to a piece of driftwood to a seashell. Who knows what was going to come up on the beach. And boy, I just like that idea. That every day you just go out and life would wash something up. Well, it kind of changed my perspective on almost everything. It really did at that time. And so, I liked Florida because of that. And, well, nowadays, as later, it's, for me, too crowded. Yeah. And other things, but too crowded. I liked Arizona because of the rocks, and I lived there for a while, I've been in quite a few different places over the years where I have put down roots. But it's just too hot and too dry for me. I can't take the summers well. Not adjusted to them. Well, I'm talking about myself, but just in relationship to the fact that in my mind, there was always this, why do we live here? We've been through so many other places where life looks like it would probably be so much better for us. I used to ask my family, why do you live here? And, well, basically the answer was, well, this is where we work, Oh, okay. So I began to realize, too, that what you do for a living is going to be the anchor that hooks you to the spot on the earth where you're at. That's oftentimes, the economy here is really very much can be a set of handcuffs, And so few things there. I mean, one was I think I started to lean towards the idea of having a mobile economy and centering economics around myself rather than connecting it, directly to some other entity. In other words, I could make money. And as a kid, I started, dredging pop bottles out of the lagoons in the park and, feeding birds and stuff for people, I had a few ways to make money, and I began to realize that I could become an economic unit myself. I didn't have to necessarily be stuck in Chicago because of the job, Well, yeah, I guess, what do we call that? One of the early advance guard of the remote workers, in a way. Every place I've ever been where I had a home, had a house, every place always had some advantages. Some places I really liked quite a bit. I really enjoyed a lot of life in the upper Great Lakes in northern Wisconsin, for instance. That I have great memories. It was kind of, in my adult mind, the parallel to rural Tennessee when I was a boy. Very close, other than the weather. Yeah, I mean, I have fond memories of fishing trout, watching deer eat my garden and so on, looking at bald eagles. Water was good, and so on and so forth. But it wasn't my place either. I was never quite comfortable there. And this is even my story in life. After having visited high elevation New Mexico, Texco, Oaxaca, I realized there are places near the tropics at high elevation where the weather is like spring almost all the time. That really appealed to me. Having flowers around, and little shower. I love spring. Well, I did realize that there are places that are probably more suitable to enjoying life than others. I've shoveled a lot of snow in northern Wisconsin and so on. Chopped a lot of firewood. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So every place you live, you will, if you're, healthy psychologically, adapt. Somehow you will adapt. Whether it's Anchorage, Alaska, or Phoenix, Arizona, you'll adapt. Or else you'll leave. It's no exception. I did well in Wisconsin, well enough. For me, it was part of school. Yes, I learned much. Everything in life for me has been school. Every place I've lived has been learning experiences that have kept moving me forward towards some sort of goal. And without realizing it, I did, consciously. I guess I must have been directing myself towards this spot where I'm at right now. For sure, I had discovered that elevation in the tropics it's a place. It's quite a good place to live as far as the human body is concerned. Doesn't swing too far either way. Around here, there's enough moisture to grow all my crops and so on. But, you can live, you can have a house, you can have real estate, you can have a job, but you don't necessarily feel at home. In the Midwest, for instance, I didn't fit in very well in some ways. There were things that I did, driving trucks, I did that well. Repairing machinery, that was something I did. I became a very skilled welder. And there were numerous things that I could contribute to the world around me while I lived there. They said, yeah, I fit in. But somewhere down underneath, I didn't, because my way of thinking, the way I see the world, if I was to expose myself in public in most of the Midwest, people would say, oh, you are so weird. I used to get this a lot. Okay, I got it a lot. I grew up with people saying, oh, you're weird. And I continued to be weird. But, life, again, is school, and I got pushed out of the Great Lakes because of a relationship breakup and, liquidation of property and all that. And so I ended up in California. There was a path, too. Yeah. There was a road sign because a guy who'd been the drummer in my rock band in the 60s in Chicago was living in the Bay Area, and there was just one synchronicity after another. And we made contact, and next thing you knew, I was living with him. We moved in. I moved in with him. And I ended up out there in the Bay Area, which, wow, that was way school. Everything I'd learned in Wisconsin actually became very valuable in the Bay Area because it's urbanized, and suburbanized too. And people actually, when it comes to natural things, in that environment can become clueless. Well, after living with wildlife, in the country for so long, I could, when somebody's bushes were attacked, I could take one look. Usually it's, well, that was raccoons last night, because I could see the animal signs that nobody else would seem to be able to see. So half the time they didn't believe me when I told a guy in, Fremont, California, in the suburbs that, yeah, his trees were attacked by deer. He kept telling me, no, it's got to be the homeless guys breaking them. Well, he finally saw the deer one day, Yeah, so what I learned gave me a good opportunity in that area. I operated nurseries, and I operated my own horticultural consulting business, and so on. And that was a great place. Yeah. I loved California a lot more in the 50s and 60s when it wasn't as messed up as it is today. But it was a good place. It still is. There's money in circulation. You want to give yourself an economic foundation in life, just make a halfway successful business out of yourself in the Bay Area, because the money just flows in, And the connections, it's, a reasonably powerful place. You get in the public eye, like I did in Google. You can become somebody, actually, in an environment like that. Lots of people get to know who you are and what you do. So it was a great stepping stone, and I learned so much in California. I really did. It was great. One thing led to another, and when I decided it was going to be time to retire, I need to look towards that part of my life, instead of we got to dig holes, man, let's get going here. This part, time to kind of sit back a bit and enjoy what I've accumulated, and have a life. Well, I figured I was going to do that in Central California, but that just wasn't the story. Hawaii pulled me here. That's really the truth. I've said this before many times, that I had no plans to be here. It was synchronicities that led me to this place. And, and when I first came here, first trip, I guess I was on an ego trip too, because I knew they had a lot of musicians around here, and at that time I was highly practiced in recording every night and so on, and I just figured I was going to come over here and I was going to kind of make a splash with people as far as my ability with the guitar. Well, it's like Nashville. There's 150 million guitar pickers here on the island, really. And even though we only have 200,000 people. Well, I don't know. The island took me, picked me up, and first day I was here, I woke up, sun rose, smacked me right into the lava flow on my left hand, on this side where my finger slide fits, and just messed my hand up black, so bad. There was no way. It was 2 weeks before I could even touch a guitar again. It was like when I came here, the island said, look, this is not why you're here, and get over it. Okay, that's pretty clear. I ain't going to be playing while I'm here. And, well, as things moved on, eventually I'm here doing this. And in my first trip to Hawaii, something happened that this never happened before. I got here and I went, this is home. I just knew it. It was almost as if it moved up from the earth, into my feet and said, yeah, you're here, finally, you're here. Really? Because, I'd been looking my whole life, asking my family, why do we live here, moving around, always looking for a better condition. And again, not necessarily having anything to do with the economics or the job or any other just that feeling of being in a place where this is where you should be. Well, that kind of happened, all right? And obviously it was accurate because, well, here I am. I set myself down, and I'm living in a place this is the best environment I have ever been in my life. And it is that sort of dreamy, upland, tropical condition that I'd always thought would be, wonderful to live under. And it's just pretty good. It's not bad at all. We got some of the best weather on the planet here. So that part's good, but it's not just that. It's as if the island's spirit itself had said, yeah, Bill, well, we can use you here, or you fit in. Because Here, no one calls me strange. No one says you're weird. Not a bit. More and more, I mean, in California, no one cared. I was pretty normal. Yeah, boy, it gets way weirder in California, you know, but sometimes California's a little scary with that stuff. Here, life's different. People, in a way, just kind of live, which is something I had always intended to want to do in my life, is just get up every morning and say, okay, what are we doing on Earth, you know, without the pressures of having to go out, you know, and got to run down and flip hamburgers, you know, this morning or whatever. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but, well, I love coffee. Coffee's important to me. I have 3 kinds of blood cells. The red ones, there's the white ones, and there's the brown ones. They're caffeinated. Without the brown ones, I probably don't even get out of bed in the morning. And, well, Hawaii's the only place in the United States where we really successfully have a coffee industry. Well, that's pretty cool. I love coffee. Well, a long time ago, a friend of mine handed me a particular type of guitar tuning, a way you turn the strings in a guitar, called Hawaiian Slack Key G. And I picked it up, and I'd been playing it half a lifetime at least in some of the music I do. Well, I got here and I said, hey man, I'm finally in the place where this tuning comes from, and that is the most common form of guitar tuning here on these islands, although a lot of people drop it to F, although it's the same sound, but they lower it a little bit. But Slack Key G is a Hawaiian tuning. It was pretty much developed here, although it's used in Delta blues, and that's where I found it. Yeah, I said, well, they kind of play guitar the way I do. They drink coffee over here, you know. I don't know. There were just so many things that seemed like they kind of fit. This is a horticultural place. Wow. You know, Hawaii's Greenland. We grow all your houseplants over here. We grow the orchids that you buy in, you know. We got macadamia nuts. We got the coffee. We got all the papayas, you know. This place is full of farmers. And farmers get respect here. Yeah. We're a normal part of society that can be quite strange sometimes. And some of our farmers are a little odd. But it's... you know, you get respect if you're growing stuff here in Hawaii. And again, that's something that, you know, in California, I was pretty smart on horticulture and nature and what I did, you know, the environmental stuff. Yeah, I was pretty smart. I got here, it's just like the guitar pickers. This place has so many genius horticulturalists. I mean, and even people who've never studied the subject here just grew up around propagating orchids and grafting fruit trees and stuff. You know, the place is just filled with people that share the same sort of love that I have. That's why I got my shirt on today. Orchid Society meeting, right? Yeah. Horticulture is really important here. Singing and playing music is extremely important here. Dance and enjoying life, just plain having a luau and partying for the sheer heck of it, you know, as a group, you know, and spreading aloha. Aloha is like, you know, I've never really been that nasty of a person, although Chicago is a hard place to feel aloha, I'll tell you. But so I didn't grow up in that tradition. But as I got here, I realized that this mindset, you know, of acceptance in general, and you know, letting people be as they are, and well, it just like all rang. I went, wow, you know. Get all this stuff here. They love farming. Whoa, they like plants. They love playing guitars and music and singing, you know, and they like drinking coffee over here. You know, fishing is something that in my life had also been extremely important. Something that, you know, goes back to childhood. I'd been a fisherman a large part of my life, avid Yeah, well, I'm on an island surrounded by fish. It's harder to fish here than most places I've been to without a boat. If you have a boat, it's relatively easy, but boating here is difficult. It's it's not like taking your canoe onto a lake in northern Wisconsin looking for walleye. So I don't get out fishing much, but it's part of this culture, and it has to do so much with connecting to me as being a place that's home. I've said in volcano videos in the past that the volcanism here is it's a microcosm of the entire reality of the universe. It shows how destruction and creation are all one piece. Life and death there's no separation here, folks. The island's real clear and getting you into understanding the Tao. It will sweep away so much of the cobwebs and illusion of human thought and belief systems and bring it down to the reality of how does this planet work? Oh my goodness, is that the way things are? Yeah, because we got a lot of myth about the way we think things are here, but the environment tends to set you straight. I love that. Yeah, I like being reminded of what's actually real, what's actually important. What is the actual world? Not the world of Bitcoin and the stock markets and politics and, I know all that stuff's out there and I engage it as I need to, but it's just a need to thing. When I don't need to, believe me, I tend not to. Well, there we go. It's about finding a home. And I don't have any directions for you. The only thing I can say about it is you'll know it when you get there. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's Lawrence, Kansas. Maybe it's LA. It could be Anchorage, Alaska. I highly recommend Homer, AK as a place to be. I've spent a lot of time there. I like it a lot. Yeah. I just get bored with all the spruce trees. You see a birch or a cottonwood and go, wow, look at that, Yeah, so horticulturally but there you go. You'll know it when you find it. Aloha. Hang loose.